All right, hello everyone. I am Ryan, also known as This Guy Are Sick,
I am Miss Ray. You can call me Ray.
and this is our Unravel 2 Co-op Any No Major Skips tutorial, which is a big long mouthful and a fancy way of saying that this is the category of the Unravel 2 speedrun where you can do some fun things, but not all of the fun things. And it's our favorite category, and we're going to show you how to run it too. So,
This is the route as we are running it in early 2021.
without further ado, let's do it. So this is the title screen. Press anything to play. So press anything. Now, when you start your run, you're always going to want to run in save slot number 1. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'm actually going to run in save slot 2, just because we can. But you want to run in save 1 because there are several times throughout the game when you're going to quit the game back to the start screen and then reload. This allows you to skip cutscenes and it saves you a lot of time. And if you're playing out of slot 1, you can just mash the A button or the X button and not have to worry about using your D-pad at all to find the right slot. So do that and then select Start Anew. But in our case, we're going to do that and select Continue Game instead. So after an initial loading cutscene, which you'll just mash through, this is where you're going to be at the beginning of Chapter 1. You've got your Yarnies shipwrecked on an island. This little opening cutscene is about a minute long, maybe a little bit more. You have plenty of time during that period to pause the game and do a couple of things. Very first thing you want to do is make sure that you go down to gameplay settings and have auto grab turned off. If auto grab is on, then the most important mechanic of the entire speedrun, zoops, will not work. So make sure auto grab is turned off. Once you've turned it off one time, it'll stay turned off for subsequent runs. So you don't have to remember doing this every single time. But for your first run, make sure you turn it off. Also important, pick a color you like. Ray and I like running as this kind of neon pink and blue combination. You'll notice the heads and the bodies of the Yarnies that we're using right now are not the default heads and bodies. So if your Yarnies don't look exactly like ours, that's totally normal. We're running this, like I mentioned before, in a completed file that we've also done all of the challenge levels. And completing challenge levels unlocks head shapes and body shapes that you can use. So ignore that. But for your purposes, pick whatever color combination you like, and then sit through the rest of this opening cutscene. Time is going to start just as soon as you start moving, which for us is as soon as we gain control, because we are already holding the buttons. Now, you'll notice Ray and I merged together immediately upon gaining control, and we used a technique called a zoop to do it. I'll explain in more detail what a zoop is, because they're going to be very, very important here in just a minute. But you need to be merged together for this very first fence to open and let you through. So we merge together right away, and then unmerge. Oops. Jump over that log. That was a little sloppy by us, but that's okay. Get up here. Alright, and we go over that fence well before it ever breaks open. Alright, now we have kind of a wide expanse to play with, so we'll get into the finer details of this game. So, I mentioned zoops. What are zoops exactly? Well, you saw that Ray and I have the ability to merge and unmerge our yarn. She can jump onto me and release. I'm the pink one, by the way. Ray is the blue one.
Okay.
But ordinarily, that only works from, I don't know, about an inch away, if that. Ray's trying to merge to me right now, and she can't do it. She's too far away. Her Yarnie is beckoning me over.
Come closer.
So what zoops allow us to do is merge to one another from any distance at all. Pretty cool, huh? And that will become massively important throughout the run. Now, I say any distance at all. The one caveat is that you must have line of sight. If I can't see Ray, See, I'm kind of behind this log right now. She's trying to zoop to me. She can't do it. So how do you zoop? If you're using a PlayStation controller, it is L2 and triangle. You press both of those buttons at the same time, and zoop.
If you're not on a PlayStation controller, it's whatever your buttons for merge and grab are.
Yeah, on an Xbox controller, I'm pretty sure it's a Y and LT. So yes,
But merge and grab at the same time.
So it's the merge button, which we use like that, and then the button to make your yarn taut, which you will use frequently when you're swinging around. And again, from any distance you can possibly want. There is a limited amount of yarn you have to work with, so it's not an infinite amount of distance, but as far away as your yarn will let you get, you can zoop from. So that'll become very, very important. For now, we're just going to make our way to a cave. This very first screen here usually takes about 30 seconds. Now you'll notice as I move, I'm jumping pretty much constantly. I call it bunny hopping. We do this because it is slightly faster than just walking. Now, whether or not that's true depends in large part on what console you're playing on. We're recording this on a PC right now. And on a PC, over flat ground, jumping and bunny hopping, exact same speed. Going downhill, walking, I'm sorry, I said jumping and bunny hopping. Walking and bunny hopping, going downhill, bunny hopping is very, very slightly faster, but it's a minuscule difference. Going uphill, it is faster to bunny hop. On consoles, it is usually faster to bunny hop. So, because we also run this game on the PlayStation, Ray and I just sort of bunny hop out of habit.
But here, I'll walk. You can see he got maybe a half a step ahead of me.
And that's mostly flat ground. Mm-hmm. It's almost completely negligible. So here we got some swings. Hang on just one second. So you'll notice here, this is, I mean, a fairly basic gameplay mechanic, but you have these anchor points with the glowing magical circles around them. As long as you are inside this circle, you can fire out your yarn using R2 or RT, grab onto that anchor point, and swing from it. All of this is pretty straightforward. Playing the game as it's meant to be played.
Okay, I merged back onto Ryan here. That was really important. Because right now he falls over. And I'm going to jump off of him. So whenever you fall in the game, not whenever you fall, but sometimes the game will kind of knock you over. And you won't be able to move for a second or two. And we call that fall damage. If you're merged together, whoever... So right there, the pink Yarny is who was in charge when we fell. Blue Yarny jumped off, and Blue Yarny did not have to wait for the fall damage. So whenever there's something like that that you know is coming, we try to always be merged so that I can kind of cancel that fall damage time and start moving right away.
I'll show it to you here. That's fall damage. You see how I wasn't able to continue moving right away. Well, never mind. But Ray gets off of me there and is able to cancel the fall damage and start moving before I'm able to.
As soon as he falls over, I jump off and I can start moving. Because this braking is triggered by how far up the log you are, so it just saves a second.
I jump there before we hit the ground because that's also, if I land on the ground there, I would suffer from fall damage. There are several places where instead of needing to unmerge to cancel fall damage, you can simply jump off of a slope or a fall and mitigate that fall damage instead of needing to cancel it. All right, so here is going to be the first instance of a zoop shift or a zoop boost, depending on how you want to refer to it as. There's a couple of ways you can do this puzzle. The intended method is to grab onto this log and pull it out and then jump on it and climb over. But that's slow and forever taking, and I don't want to do it. So instead, we're going to use a zoop, because if I try and jump up here, I don't make it. I can't jump quite high enough to get up on top of this ledge. But we have the technology.
We have the magic of zoops. So what happens is, if pink Yarny zoops to blue Yarny...
Ordinarily, this is what happens, right? I zoop all the way and merge. That's how we explained zoops earlier.
However, zoop again, and I will cancel by pressing the zoop buttons myself.
So I press the buttons to zoop. I'm pink one, remember?
Zoop, and it uncancels. It cancels the zoop, so he stops zooping to me.
Yep. So Ray presses the same button combination, in this case triangle and L2 on a PlayStation controller, or Y and LT on an Xbox controller, while I am in mid-flight, and it stops my zoop and drops me right where I am.
However, there is the added benefit of, while pink Yarny is in the air, any motion that the other Yarny does is mirrored in pink Yarny. So, Ryan's going to zoop to me, I'm going to jump right, and it is going to move him right.
And she's also going to jump up, because jumping moves you up, and I'm going to get a little extra altitude. Those two things together are going to be enough to get me on top of this rock face. Watch. Ta-da!
So I jump and cancel while I'm in... I'll show you. Here, do it again, and I'll kind of talk through it. Jump, cancel. So he keeps moving up and right after I cancel, because that's the momentum I have given him.
All right, one more time with feeling.
And then I immediately zoop up to him, and we can keep moving.
That is going to be your best friend throughout this route. Older versions of this run used a lot of...
much harder technology.
Sometimes very difficult.
Canceling.
All right, so there's some fall damage. Ray jumped off of me right away. Now, the intended method for this puzzle is also pretty lengthy and boring and forever taking, and I don't really want to do it. So instead, we do what we call log hat. I'm going to jump up, pull this log down. Ray is going to stop right there. Ordinarily, Ray would continue going around and stand on top of the left side of this log so that it's weighed down, and I can... whatever, I don't want to do it. Instead, the log's going to sit on her head, and I'm going to zoop to her. Now, I'm pressing the zoop buttons right now, but I'm not zooping. I mentioned earlier that zoops only work with line of sight, and right now there's a big ol' rock in between us. I cannot see Ray. Well, I mean, I can, but my Yarny can't see Ray's Yarny. How about that? So, I'm going to press the zoop buttons here, and I'm going to start moving to the right, and as soon as Ray comes into view, my Yarny will zoop. Whoop! Alright, now, before we move along, you'll notice that our yarn has not spooled back all the way. This is called a tangle, and tangles are not fun. Well, okay, there you go. Our yarn just spooled.
I fixed it.
So Ray managed to fix it, but for a moment there, it was tangled. Well, it'll probably happen again. We might even try and do it on purpose so that we can demonstrate. But tangles can be dangerous because if your yarn can't spool all the way, you can't progress forward very far. Here, a tangle on this screen is usually not a big deal because the screen transition is right here. And so long as you get through a screen transition, tangles will disappear on their own. But if you get tangled in the middle of a big room with no screens anywhere, you will often have to pause and reset your checkpoint, which can lose you a lot of time. Got some more just normal intended gameplay here.
And you will notice that a lot of this game, one of us runs and not the other. There are no rules in co-op about how much of the game has to be co-op.
Yeah, the way we run it personally, we do a lot of piggybacking, where one of us will run and the other one will just stay merged onto the Yarny. It's just a personal choice. Running separately is sort of a double-edged sword. You have the benefit of being able to make up for each other's mistakes and lapses, and also the risk of if one of you gets too far behind and is unable to zoop back to the first one, then the person ahead has to stop and wait. So, double-edged sword, like I said. Alright, ordinarily, this puzzle here, you would build your first bridge, which is just tying a knot onto these anchor points, and then using it to jump up. Like that. But, bridges take a long time to build, and I don't want to do it. So, we are once again going to use a zoop cancel. We demonstrated those a little bit ago, and this is a perfect time to make use of it. So Ray jumps up in the air to give me a little bit of additional height to get me up on top of this log, and then cancels me at the peak of my jump, and I'm good to go. And then she's just going to zoop to me, and we proceed on.
This puzzle gets a lot of people. You have to go through all the hints.
Yeah, so there's hints at the bottom of the screen. I know this seems pedantic to explain, but
the amount of people I have seen get stuck here in casual playthroughs is wild.
So when you walk up to these thorns, they don't disappear. No matter what you do, they will not disappear.
Unless you're on Switch.
Unless you're running on the Switch, in which case they will disappear automatically. Because Switch isn't fair. But any other console, you have to scroll through these hints at the bottom, which requires, I think, L1 and then right on the D-pad 3 or 4 times. And then they disappear and you can proceed on. So the way Ray and I break that up is she presses L1 once and I'm just mashing right on the D-pad. And between the two of us, we get it all. Whoops. All right. Once again, zoops are going to be handy here. You're supposed to push this log a really long way, but I don't really feel like doing it. So we are going to do one more zoop shift. I'm going to jump onto this. Zoop.
Like that.
That's kind of a... That looks more complicated than it actually is. All I'm doing is jumping onto this face here, and while I'm hanging onto this, I'm pressing the zoop buttons. Ray is going to shift and cancel me to get me higher, and then I can do a couple of wall jumps to get all the way up.
Let's say out loud what we're going to do while we do it.
So, jump, zoop.
Jump, cancel.
Jump, jump.
Zoop.
There you go. These tricks broken up between 2 people really are not difficult most of the time. They look complicated, but two heads are better than one. So here's another area where you're supposed to build bridges. We're not going to use any glitches or speed run mechanics here. We're just going to do it a better way than what the devs intended. You can grab onto this anchor point, and then once you reach the top, once you climb all the way up, you can release your yarn, whoop, thereby falling, and jump at the exact same time to jump up and have enough room to grab the next one. I'll do that one more time. Just like that. And then on the third one, you jump. Whoops. The third one, you're gonna jump, and then kind of on your D-pad or on your joystick, press right so that you're clinging onto the wall, and then jump out and up, just like that. One more time, the whole thing. And there you go. Start climbing up.
I'm going to get myself a nice swing. Swinging is faster than
All right.
walking, so swing
Now,
when you can.
Yes, swings are great. Swings are faster than just about any other form of movement. So anytime you can get yourself a good swing, do it. Right here, we're very far apart because Ray got a really good swing, and it took me a little while to get up and over that big rock there. So it's tempting to zoop to Ray so that I can make up some ground. However, let's see what happens if I do. And now we're tangled.
I cannot unmerge.
We can't unmerge, and eventually, Ray, try and keep going. This is as far as Ray can go. We're stuck.
Sometimes if we walk back, it'll untangle.
There you go.
But that's a long time to have to walk back.
Oh, and our yarn's kind of freaking out now.
Yeah, sometimes you get fun yarn physics.
We're going to go ahead and restart the checkpoint, even though we don't have to there. Restart the checkpoint, and it backs us up all the way to here. So unless you are confident that you have a clean zoop, don't do it. All right, so we're moving right along. And here, we're going to do mostly the intended thing. It's just a series of swings, but we're going to do it much, much faster through the help of zoops.
Zoop.
And that's it. And swing. 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 Zoop. This is kind of a fun one. There's a bunch of different ways to do this. This is the fastest way we've found. I'm going to drop down. Remember, I'm pink. I'm going to drop down, catch myself right about here, and just swing myself around. Ray's going to drop down, come up to me. Some people will lower themselves all the way to the ground, or swing around. The second person will lower all the way to the ground and then zoop up. Do it however you like, but we're relatively confident that that is the fastest way to do that.
At least for us.
At least for us.
That is very true of kind of the whole game. There are a lot of ways to solve a lot of these puzzles, and we do it the way that feels most comfortable for us. If you find something that feels better to you, then do that.
Yes. Our route is a good route. I like our route a lot. It works well for us. We put up good times with it. It is not the right route. There is no right or wrong way to do this speed run. So whatever feels comfortable to you, whatever feels fast to you, do that. There are a couple of mechanics, and we'll mention them when they become relevant. There are a couple of mechanics in the game that are allowed in this category that we just don't use. We don't use them because we're not good at them. And we find that they lose us time if we attempt to use them. So we just don't bother. Okay, this is the last, well, not the last screen, but the last puzzle, let's say, of Chapter 1. We call this well skip. The intended method here involves you jumping in the water, swimming all the way to the right side of the room, climbing up a vine, pulling down a branch, swinging across. It takes forever. So we're going to skip all of that. This is pretty tough. If you're going to reset Chapter 1, this is where it's going to happen, and it happens a lot. Ray's going to stand here, right where we came in. I'm going to jump out into, well, not the middle of the room, because I can't jump that far, but towards the middle of the room, and I'm going to zoop. She's going to cancel and shift my zoop, and ideally, I am going to end up essentially directly above where we are now, holding on to the vines up there. So here we go. And then she zoops to me, and we climb up. Some wall jumps here. There's a vine here you can use if you want, but I prefer just swinging all the way into the bucket. And the very last thing you want to make sure you do here in Chapter 1, not Chapter 7, Chapter 1 is one more damage cancel. As soon as I'm able to, I'm just going to zoop onto Ray. And that's Chapter 1. We generally, there's no correct way to do this, but we generally split on fade to black. So right
There.
now.
And then we have to watch this cutscene.
We won't see the cutscene.
We don't right now because we're running on a completed file.
Yes, so we're running on a completed file, so there's no cutscene here, but ordinarily, since you'll be running on a fresh file, there's a lengthy cutscene where the Yarnies arrive to the lighthouse, and the little light that's following us around, our little fairy friend, is going to fly up and add color to some paintings on the wall. It's really pretty. The majority of those you can skip. There's one of those cutscenes after every single chapter. The majority of them you can skip. And depending on the console you're running, it is faster to skip. If you're running on PC, always faster to skip the cutscene. And by skip the cutscene, I mean what I meant early on. You pause, you scroll down to quit to start screen, not quit game. Don't do that. Quit to start screen. And yeah, we'll go ahead and do it. Quit to start screen. And then select, we're running in 2, but select save slot 1 and continue game. And when it reloads, you'll be in the lighthouse having skipped the cutscene. The first cutscene, the one that you will be viewing right now, is non-skippable. So the cutscene after Chapter 1, going into Chapter 2, do not quit to the start screen for that. You have to watch the cutscene. But after that, you're going to move all the way to the right, and you'll actually regain control right about here. The cutscene will take you about this far. Chapter 2 is up on top of this table in the portal. And we'll see you in Chapter 2.